Our next segment is going to be on choosing glassware and stemware. And with the array of glasses in front of me, you may wonder, what on earth do you use for what? Each type of beverage has a different type of glass, and there's many choices, even when you're serving a glass of champagne. So looking at all of these, let's start with our Martini glasses. I have several Martini glasses in front of me, and holding up this one, nice small glass, slender stem, nicely balanced. Very important, and not so large. Our next Martini glass is actually shorter. Both are correct, and when you're serving a martini, a nice martini napkin works beautifully for that as well. I think every event, whether you're socializing with a glass of something cool or dining, should be an event. And little things like the napkins and the right glasses make all the difference. Now, that might be a lovely option for a sultry evening or a winter. And then comes summertime, when you're dining, you might want something with lighter colors. So create the theme and use a color scheme that works for everything. Another version of a martini glass is this etched glass, which I happen to think is particularly beautiful. I've also used these martini glasses when serving dessert. I think they work beautifully for that as well. So you've got a nice effect here, and with a little candlelight at your table, you get the glimmer and the shimmer, which adds to the romance and the mystique of the special event that we're hosting. So there's some martini glasses, or sorbet, or ice cream, or berries even. For champagne, many choices. A tall, slender flute, something very inexpensive, but looks expensive. Always decide what makes something look expensive and then add that to your collection. Have at least 2 of everything, but ideally 10 or 12, as it's nice to have everyone with the same kind of glass. And there's new little things out these days that you can add to the glass that has a different pattern on it, a little metal attachment that allows that person to know it's their glass. Or you can be quite creative and have different champagne glasses for everyone, depending on your personal preference. I really love this champagne glass. It's tall and slender, heavy and weighted, a beautiful balance. When you're sipping a beverage that is chilled, such as champagne or white wine, you would want to hold the glass on the stem, because that would not warm the beverage if your hand is up here. The challenge is when you go to a networking situation or event, you usually have a glass of something in your hand, and you've been nibbling on food, so that means that this hand, you can't shake anyone's hand. So the challenge begins to, how do you network effectively? Well, first of all, if you have a glass in your hand and you see a camera pointing towards you, always lower the glass. Don't do the cheer, and it's going to come back at you, and people might just think you drink too much. So lower the glass, or put it behind or on a table. And ideally at a networking situation, you would have a high top table that you could actually set your glass and your hors d'oeuvres down. Hors d'oeuvres should be no bigger than 2 bite sizes so that you can manage that. Another important aspect of the networking event is that you realize you're there to network. And if you are drinking and eating, you're very busy with those activities, and it doesn't allow you to socialize and interact with others. So even though the hostess has gone to a lot of work to prepare, I recommend that you have something to eat before or after and spend your time networking. So our champagne glasses could consist of the first 2 that I showed you. Very different, much lighter in weight and heavier, beautiful cut crystal, and looks very nice. Something much more delicate for maybe a rosé in the champagne range with a little pink tint to it would be beautiful. Usually in the colored glass, I recommend that you only put a clear beverage such as a white wine. So here these would be beautiful for champagne, as champagne has many different colors to the bubbly. A much more challenging champagne glass to drink out of, because you'll see that the area of the opening of the glass is very tiny. So this would work nicely for a dainty woman, but you would not want to hand a man this particular champagne glass. They'll need something that has a wider bowl and mouth to it. A lovely glass for white wine would be the similar version to our champagne glass, and here it's a little shorter. As you can see by looking at the two of them, it's shorter and a little wider in the bowl and the mouth. So this is a beautiful glass for something summery and light in the way of a white wine, and of course here. One of the things that we see when people are toasting is they'll lift their glass up and clink glasses with everyone. I'm going to recommend that there's a better way or an alternate choice. If you are being toasted, then you do not drink to your own toast. You might acknowledge it by looking at everyone, smiling, thanking them, maybe standing up and giving a mini speech, or you may lift a glass, but you normally drink to yourself. Another thing with toasting is I'm going to recommend that you don't clink the glasses, but that you lift the glass up, look at each person in the eye and acknowledge it, and perhaps nod your head and lift the glass. And that would suffice rather than the clinking. And at weddings, I don't think I'll ever be able to break everyone of the habit, but it would be lovely if they stopped hitting the glasses with their silverware. Now, let's take a look at some of our other glasses. We've got a lovely Brandy Snifter here. When you are ordering a Courvoisier or a cognac in a bar or restaurant, you look at that glass and you may think, did they give me a full pour? Well, interestingly enough, a full pour, when you set the glass on the side of a flat surface such as the table, the item in the glass, the brandy, remains totally in the bowl. And then you know it's a full pour. So if you look at it and think it's not a full pour, it perhaps is because your pour at home might be a touch heavier. So this is a beautiful glass. When you're having a brandy or Courvoisier, you can swirl it to let the beautiful fragrance come out, and you'll see the small legs of the liquid coming down the edge, and putting your nose in the bowl and allowing it to breathe. And with the brandy glass, you can actually warm it with your hand with a little bit of this, and it's quite lovely. A couple of other options here. We've got a very delicate glass with a much smaller opening than the base, allowing the wine to move around nicely. It's a good balance, makes for a nice addition to the table, particularly when you might have something like this as well. So we might get something in the way of a fruity type wine, and then something a little bit heavier in a white wine, and the two glasses would be quite different. And then moving, oh, didn't that sound lovely? Yes, and then moving towards a different shape. The bigger bowl usually represents something for a red wine, not always, but usually, and this is a lovely stemmed glass. When you are setting your table,